We are now in the second week of Advent, and as we learned last week, Advent is a Latin term meaning coming, and it translates, like we also learned last week, a Greek word meaning coming or arrival or being present. And as we all know, it's no surprise, we are waiting for the arrival of Jesus Christ. Thank you very much. So I always tell kids there's only two, like if the pastor or a teacher in Sunday school ever asks you a question, you got a 50-50 shot, it's God or Jesus. That's going to be it. So like shout it out, God or Jesus, okay? Although there are a couple more in here that are not God or Jesus, so when I ask those questions, like not God, it's not Jesus. So trick question there. Okay, so if you were paying attention in the children's sermon, one more secret here, okay, so there's one more secret. This is only my third time preaching here, so it may not be evident yet. My children's sermons always build off the same research that I put into the adult sermon. I don't water down what I give to the kids. They get what you get. So, if you're ever bored and you're after the kids' sermon, or if you have to run, just stay for the kids' sermon because it's going to be the same message. Nobody's leaving. Okay, good. That's good. Okay, good. So, no takers on that. Okay, so as we learned in the kids' sermon, Advent is a season of preparation. We are preparing our hearts, our mind, our soul, our spirit to be ready for the arrival of Jesus Christ. And as we learned in the kids' sermon, that took a lot of work. It takes a lot of work, just like wrapping that present took a lot of work, a lot of running around the sanctuary, this way, that way, back over here. It was as if the kids were sort of in their own wilderness, looking for the stuff that would let them wrap that present so that it could become a present. They were in the wilderness, so to speak. So here's where the question comes that I said the answer is not God or Jesus, okay? So the kids were in their own little wilderness running around. Who from our New Testament reading today was also in the wilderness? John the Baptist. Jesus, not yet. I mean, he's not here yet. We're almost there, Scott. Not next week we get to Jesus. Mark tells us that John the Baptist appeared in the wilderness. The Greek's a little bit difficult to translate. I mean, the Greek word itself is relatively easy, but whether or not he came to the wilderness or appeared, anyway, he's in the wilderness. He's preparing people. The preparation John offered to people occurs in the wilderness. And if we go back to the Old Testament reading, that dramatic courtroom thing up in the divine council, who else was in the wilderness? It was a part of Monica. Pardon? Yes, Jerusalem, very excellent. Thank you, Bonnie. Monica played the part of an angel who is talking about Jerusalem coming back into its own, out of the Babylonian exile. So from our Isaiah passage, there's a wilderness. Listen to what was happening in both of these passages. The way of the Lord is prepared not where things are easy, not in the city, not where all the roads are already paved. The way of the Lord must be prepared, according to the angel that Monica played, in the wilderness, so that God can come through the wilderness. Now think about that for a moment. The way of God, literally the road that God will walk on to find and save the people of God, must be built in the wilderness. Now, just like with the Christmas present, if I had brought that Christmas present all wrapped and said, hey kids, look, like I wrapped this morning and now it's going to be a Christmas present and we're going to put it underneath the tree, isn't that awesome? Well, no, they missed the entire point. And that's what's happening in Isaiah and also in Mark. There's a preparation. A road that is already built does not need to get built by us. God plans that we help build this road through all the wildernesses that we have in our lives. It's not as if in the kids' sermon I said, hey, Merry Christmas, kids, here's your present. And that's not what God is saying to us in Advent. Merry Christmas, everybody. Jesus Christ is all set and wrapped for you. The road to Christ is all set to go. No work on your part. The road must be constructed in the wilderness. So what does that construction look like? I mean, obviously, we're not wrapping a present. We're not building an actual road. Our hearts, our spirit, our soul, our physical life needs the preparation of Advent. Our hearts, and everything that means, spirit, soul, life, all that stuff, our heart does not need any preparation for this if they are already perfectly prepared for the love of God. I want to say that again. Our hearts do not need any preparation if they are already prepared for the love of God. Am I suggesting that your heart, my heart, is not ready for the preparation of God? Is not all ready to receive God? No, I am not. Advent is making that statement. Moses sees the burning bush of God in the wilderness. And God speaks to Moses. The Israelites wandered through the wilderness for 40 years, and God fed them and gave them water. The prophet Elijah fled into the wilderness and was fed food by an angel of God. David, the David from David and Goliath, David also flees into the wilderness where an angel speaks to him. John the Baptist goes out to the wilderness, and people come out to see him, and he baptizes people. Jesus, getting back to Scott, Jesus is tempted in the wilderness for 40 days, and immediately after that, an angel feeds Jesus in the wilderness. God meets us in the wilderness. Our preparation, the act of preparing to meet God in the vulnerable form of an infant. Remember that. God is not coming in all this glory. God's coming in this little kid. The act of preparing to meet that God occurs in the wilderness of our life, where we don't really know what is going on or what to expect next in our life. Our hearts are prepared to meet God when our life feels precarious. Our hearts are prepared to meet God when life is unpredictable. Our hearts are prepared to meet God when we feel forgotten by God. Our hearts are prepared to meet God when we feel that everything around us is failing, and we feel as though we are in a wilderness. Those are vague words. I mean, precarious, unpredictable, forgotten. An illustration would be nice. I mean, don't just give us those words, Robert. Give us an illustration. Tell us a story of someone's life, someone from today, so we can just grab that story and know exactly what you mean. We want an illustration. I can't do that. I can't do that because my wilderness is not your wilderness. And your wilderness is not your neighbor's wilderness. The wilderness that each of us this morning is feeling, or felt this week, or will feel next week, is different for each of us. The feeling is similar, the feeling of being in a wilderness, but the actual wilderness and what that looks like is personal to you. It's personal to me. It's different from yours. And that's why God gave us Advent, a personal time of reflection in the middle of our wilderness, in which we prepare our hearts for the coming of the infant God. Amen.